it's really a fork in the road. It's like, do you want to stay on this path? And then you realize, oh, this path that I've been on got me to this point in the path. And going left, like I can stay on this path, but I'm starting to feel like it's not the right path anymore.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Career Flipper podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Dempsey. You know, after getting laid off and struggling to find a new job that I enjoyed, I decided to try customer service consulting and flipping furniture. Okay, it wasn't as easy as it sounds right there, but I found through this roller coaster, unique adventure, hearing stories from other everyday people who took control of their careers and were doing things differently really helped me. So I started dreaming about things, and I woke up one morning with this idea to start a podcast and share these stories that I was talking to other people about. And I wanted a place where I could go back and listen to them for motivation, and I figured others might enjoy them too. So here we are. Each week, you'll hear from amazing, everyday people who have taken unique and often unconventional career paths. We'll chat about their experiences and tips and advice, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find something that helps you on your own journey. So let's get into the first episode, where you're going to meet Nick Musica, a successful SEO expert in Carlsbad, California, who also does animal psychic readings on the side. Learn how he found his path, the challenges he's faced, and why he really embraces his unique career. Let's get started. Nick, hello. Welcome.
Howdy, Jenny.
Hi. Welcome to the Career Flipper podcast.
Super happy to be here.
Super happy to have you. Oh my gosh, I was thinking about this. You know, we have known each other for almost a decade, which is kind of crazy to think. Yeah. We worked together.
Well, I guess so.
When we started working together, it was 2015.
It's been more than a minute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been a while. Damn.
Yeah. And a lot has happened in those last almost 10 years. And, you know, when I was kind of kicking this off, I thought, there's no one better than you to start this podcast.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. So let's just get into it.
Okay.
Your career flip story. Tell us about it. Like,
yeah,
all the things.
Yeah. I mean, when we met, I was the SEO guy, right? I had a little publisher here in town, and I've been doing that since 2003 in one form or another. Web, digital, paid search, SEO, and SEO really was started to be the focus around probably 2003. So when we met, I was fully in it. I just came from the Bay Area, and that's what I did. That's how I made my money. That was and even more so, that was my identity with self. Like this is what I do day in and day out, right? These are the books in my library. These are the things I pay attention to. And I can't call it a 100% career flip, but if it's possible to have your own agency and have a side hustle and work on that side hustle, and that's the flip, I don't even know if that's the right language, but a certain thing did show up a little more than a year ago, and here's how it went. My wife and I went to a psychic fair here in Carlsbad, and we did a little loop around the conference floor. Didn't really see anyone. Then we approached it from the opposite direction, and as soon as we look up, I see this young lady, and I think she'd be good. So I looked at Julietta, my wife, and I said, "Hey, Jul, what do you think?" And Julietta said, "That sounds great. Why don't you go first?" And so I sat down with medium Adelita. I've never been to a medium before. Really wasn't in my belief system or interest, but I thought let's just go and give it a shot. And she starts out by drawing this heart, and she says it's either a former romantic relationship or it's an animal, and she circles the animal. And And she says, "You did too much." That's the message that came through. And immediately my brain goes to Henry, who lived to be 22 years old. He hasn't been on the planet in almost as many years. And the last 2 years of his life were spent going back and forth to the vet with, doing all the things you can do to address the symptoms of old age for a cat who's 22. Hydration. He was walking around like Quasimodo with these big hydration packs on his back. The blood work, all the things. We're questioning everything. How do we make him comfortable? Which, in hindsight was really like, how do you make the human, me, comfortable about this situation? Really, that's what it was, right? So the summary statement of "you did too much" was spot on, and she didn't know anything about that. And as I'm comprehending that, like what's happening here, I'm sat down with this woman who's a medium, and my cat came through, and he's been off the planet for 20 years. She continued, and she said, "They're now showing me Dr. Dolittle. They're showing me that you can talk to animals, and it's going to be easy for you." And I thought, oh shit, I've never heard anything more truthful in my life. I couldn't tell you why. And the rest of the time was spent around topics like that. What happened is I went home and I sat down with my living cat, Chucky, and I did my meditation, which I've been doing for a handful of years at this point. And I thought, I'm gonna tune into Chucky and see what happens. And so almost immediately dropping into the meditation, I see this big white bright light. And it's the type of thing you would read about that's associated with like spirit guides, angels, like higher level beings. And I thought, there's absolutely no way that my cat who poops in a box and sometimes on the floor, right? Like he's not a higher level being. This is not a thing. And so I call her up and I'm like, "This is not working. It's not working. Never mind easy. It's not working." And her response was, "Well, you're expecting things to show up in very specific ways. That's not how this works. You have to be open, be the channel, and the information you get is the information you get." Okay. All right. So I decide I'll give it a second shot. And I also buy a lot of animal communication books. You'd be surprised how many there are that are actually out there. People who psychically talk to animals, they wrote books. And I get a couple sessions with people who do this for a living. And as I'm stepping away from my dining room table to go to this computer for a Zoom meeting with one of those animal communicators, I get this flash. I see this scene out of Return of the Jedi, which is It's a scene of the Force ghost of Obi-Wan and Yoda. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm being shown a student-teacher relationship. And it's coming from Chucky. I know it's coming from Chucky. You could just feel that it's happening. And then I'm reflecting on that white light. And I'm like, oh shit, that was him showing up for the first time, and I dismissed it because it was, not in my belief system. Same thing. And I sit down with this animal communicator, and the first thing out of her mouth after we verify who I am and why I'm here, she goes, "So Chucky, do you know who he is to you?" And I go, "Oh yeah. He showed me right before I got here." And we start talking about that, and that was pretty much the entirety of our session of who he is to me. And he took me on as an assignment. And I know how crazy this sounds, but it's all like it's played out multiple times over the past year plus. And this is my story. I'm sticking to it. So he has proven to be a wonderful little teacher. I get a lot of corrections from him, but this is about career flipping, right? And so for the first few months, things were showing up for me, and so I ended up talking to Coyote's dolphin. Things would show up for me. And then in the beginning of the year, I thought, well, can I do this for other people? Can this be a thing? What's available? So I went on to Nextdoor and I said, "Hi, my name is, I'm an animal communicator. What that means is I psychically talk to animals, and free 15 minutes. Sign up right here." And I thought, what did I do? What did I say? Like who's going to even believe this type of thing? And I have a Google, and at the same time, I'm excited about what could happen. And I gave people access to a Google sheet so I can see when someone fills it out, right? When they hit submit, the information comes through, right? And I'm just sitting there, just sort of staring at this Google sheet. And soon, within a moment, it fills in, the first row fills in, and, first, last name and name of pet and age of pet and, what type of animal is it? And I feel the woman come through, like I can feel the energy of the woman coming through. And I thought, oh yeah, this is definitely going to work. Without a doubt, it's going to work. And so I sat down. My process is I tune into the animal like on a Thursday or earlier on a Friday, and then the day comes, and I have the debrief with the human, and I tell them what the animal said. So that happened like the first-ish week of the new year, maybe the last week of December, something like that. And just this year. So this is brandy-ish new. Yeah. So I'm going on about 6 months of doing this, and I have office hours every week. I have 2 folks today that I'll be talking to, and their animals today. And that is the short story of my career flip.
Nick, I wanted to do one clap because people, they know. I gotta say, thank you for sharing all of that. I want to call out one thing that stands out. I mean, obviously this entire journey is very special, very unique, and very important. I think you called out one thing and you said, I know this sounds crazy. And a lot of the people that I have talked to for these types of flips, everyone says, gosh, this is crazy. And I think that's kind of this pivotal moment where we have these things that we are suddenly finding out in ourselves. Maybe they were always there. Maybe it's brought to our attention, as in your story, where it's kind of like, oh, it was there, but someone had to point this out. And then we lean into it, and it kind of becomes, the delusion becomes part of the flip, part of the adventure. And I think that's also what stops a lot of people. How many people, like, I was at a business conference recently, and so many people were coming up to me, not talking about business, but yet talking about furniture flipping.
Yeah, right.
And they were like, I do, this art, or I do this, like pulling me aside, whispering to me, like they were so ashamed. And they're like, this is crazy, but I love this. And I'd love to, make this and sell it. But that's kind of crazy. And it's like, that's stopping you. And I get it, because I'm the same way. But I think I wanted to call that out because I think a lot of people listening, and I think, you and I both have talked so much about it, like the part that feels the craziest is what we're called to. And that can get in people's ways, where that could stop in the tracks and you would have never explored this. It would have stopped me. I never would have, gone on to do what I'm doing. And it's like, do you stay comfortable, or do you start to get in this crazy zone? I think there's something important to call out there, where it doesn't have to be like going outside of this comfort zone feels crazy, and that's okay.
Yeah. And you use the word delusional. I mean, it certainly can feel delusional compared to your, like, what you've experienced so far, right? Because for a lot of folks, including myself, like, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. And this, and like, it wasn't supposed to happen. Certainly it wasn't supposed to happen. A random, and nothing is random. So I use the word cheeky, in a cheeky way, random. There's no coincidences, right? So we were actually scheduled to go to pickleball that day, and it got canceled. And then we're like, oh, is that psychic fair actually happening today? Oh, we should go there because that'll be fun, right? Like, random type of thing. Like, let's go pick up groceries. Like, oh, we have extra time type of thing. Like, it was really just sort of fill in the blank of an hour here. And you walk out going, what the hell just happened? Like, something, wasn't expecting that, and no denying the experience when you sit there and someone says, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you're going to do. And you're like, yeah, that's right. That's, like, almost like I should be telling you that. Like, that's how it landed for me. But it can be disruptive for some folks, for sure. But it's, like, it's really a fork in the road. It's like, do you want to stay on this path? And then you realize, oh, this path that I've been on got me to this point in the path. And going left, like, I can stay on this path, but I'm starting to feel like it's not the right path anymore. Got me here is not going to get me to wherever I'm going now. And the road that I'm on, while it served me, is it's just not the one to stay on anymore, or not be the one to stay on 100% of the time, or whatever it is. But there starts to be a switch for people, and you start to look in different directions. And for folks who haven't made the switch, Like and are afraid possibly to do it. And that's sort of some of the voices out there. Like, are you sure you want to do this? No, I'm not. I'm not sure I want to do this, but am I driven to do it? Am I compelled to do it? I am. Like, I need to see what's further down the road. There's no choice behind that. I mean, there is, but it sort of feels like there isn't, because like you have to do it. You have to go explore it. And what's going to happen is going to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah. You never know until you try. And those voices, whether it's in your own head or it's like naysayers around you or just society in general, like, you know, having a stable job. And Nick, I gotta say, you're amazing at SEO. Like the work that you've done, like working together, like I know you are so good at SEO. And then, you know, in society, like someone sees, oh yeah, you're great at business. You got this. Like this is your, like, well, you know, your title is this. And then you mentioned like work was your word. Like that's how you define yourself. Yeah. Suddenly there's this curveball thrown.
Yeah.
I'm going to just call it unique. It's very unique. And I like the word special because it's very special. And you had a choice at that moment. Like you were saying, you had a choice and you could have ignored it and said, no, society says that this is weird and I don't want to be weird. I'm going to stick with what I know. And that's fine too. But it's like you didn't, because you had that calling and you had to explore it. I think a lot of people get stuck in that moment trying to like, you know, what's my thing? I got to find my thing. They're looking everywhere. And it's like, wait, it's going to pop up in the least expected way. I think.
Yeah. I mean, here's how it was for me. Like, you know, and I'm still doing SEO, still run my own little agency here in town. And, but you know, the animal showed up and for a few months, it was really my experience. It's almost like validating experiences. Like, you know, like the coyote, like I was mentioning, coyote, dolphin, Chucky. And it just kept showing up and showing up and showing up. And I didn't really know what to do with it. And I wasn't ready to say, hi, my name is, and I psychically talk to animals. It's animal communication, right? Like a lot of people still don't know what SEO is, never mind animal communication. I didn't know what it was until a couple of years ago. I just stumbled on it, like another one of those coincidences. There are no coincidences. It showed up early and then it started to develop from there. But you know, when it showed up and after I got the validation for myself and I wasn't acting on it maybe in a way that I should have been, like I started to feel like I was in a little bit of a funk, like not depressed and not funk, but someplace in between, like just not moving forward and not feeling the best about it. And I didn't know what to do about it. And then I started to make some decisions to focus on it and move it forward. And there was an instance where I signed up for a 12-month speaker program, speaker coaching program. And literally the day before I was talking to a buddy and he's like, you know, I love the program. Like, I know you do. You've been doing it for a couple of years and, it sounds great, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Like I don't have a place to put it in my world right now. And within a matter of 24 hours, for whatever reason, it showed up and I thought, oh shit, like that is how this is going to work. Like this is where I get to focus on this thing and learn how to get in front of people, which I didn't want to be. Like I'm the SEO guy who doesn't want to be found. Like how silly is that? It's fucking silly. Like I want everyone else to be found. Like that's the root of my work, but I don't want to be found. Like it's fucking ridiculous. Like get out of your own way, dude. And so I signed up and I felt so good after doing that. And I still feel like that changed everything. And now, it's a little bit like, it's a little bit like marriage in some ways where you're like, I did it. And it's like, great. You just signed up for a lot of work now. Right. Like, right. Cause getting to the altar wasn't the work. I mean, it was, you had to figure some things out, but once you make that decision, like you are on a fundamentally different path. And now you're largely, you know, carving your own path. And that's, it could be terribly intimidating or it could be terribly exciting or a combination of both. And it is your path. It is 100% your path. And you'll have people who show up along the way who help you out, which is super crazy. And you and I were just out chatting this week. Like it's funny once you get on the path, like the support that comes through. It's nutty how it just shows up in ways that you would have never expected. People would just volunteer to support you. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's when you're on that path, some things just like the puzzle pieces, the ones you thought you've lost or were gone forever, the socks, that you're like, I had 2 socks in the washer and they were in the dryer and then suddenly that one sock's gone. It just shows up at random places. I'm curious, Nick, how does this new path that you're on change your relationship from yourself to your work? Like you mentioned, your identity was, this SEO, and that's who you were. Yeah. How has that shifted over the last, 6 months to a year?
Yeah. It's funny. This came up in conversation just earlier this week too. Like, how do you balance these things? And right now it is a balance. I mean, and my brain works one way very different than the other way. I mean, SEO is so, software and computers and Excel spreadsheets and analyzing and all those things, copying. And so it's very rational. Like it has to sort of make sense. Mm-hmm. And there's some philosophy in there. Like there's how search engines should work, the results you should get. So there is some, other than just checking boxes. It's not that simple. There's some higher level thinking and philosophizing you have to implement to get the results you're looking for. But it's very 3D, if that's the right word to use. Where the animal work, like it's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of conversations about higher self and spirituality and consciousness and telepathy. Like the vocabulary is 100% different. The process is 100% different. These are completely separate things. Yeah. And so I feel like, for me anyway, I mean, I turned 50 last June and I'm like, I can be good at 2 things. I can minimally be good at 2 things. That's fine. How the world perceives that, which was a little bit of my hang up in the beginning for sure. Like that's not my problem anymore. And the self-selection, which I've been dealing with forever. Like people don't believe, I've talked to people about SEO and they're like, that's not real. It's about buying a lot of links. And I go, oh, okay. Like clearly you've done the work, clearly. So, it's sort of the same thing. And I've had people I've known for a long time going, I don't know if I should believe that. And I'm like, this is fundamentally not about me. This is about your belief system. And I get it. And I sat down with a woman who was a medium and it wasn't my belief system. Now it is. I mean, I had the experience, right? And now that wasn't my limitation or it wasn't her limitation. It was my limitation. So, that's fine. And if your perception of self isn't going to change over time, then that's a different problem. Right. We shouldn't be the same people when we die that we are when we live and everywhere in between, right? That would be boring. That'd be terribly boring. Mm-hmm. So it's fun. It's a hoot. It's really a lot of fun to do this work and talk with critters. Mm-hmm.
The SEO for your own self-fulfillment. Like you found your calling through this and you can live in both worlds. I love that you brought that up because I know there's so many people out there who have, corporate jobs. I'll just air quotes corporate, all corporate. And, they're working so hard and there's this idea. And I know even for myself in like the, in the job market and I was applying, like people are like, oh, you're a flight risk because you do multiple things.
Yeah.
Really? So I'm only allowed to do one thing? That seems so boring. And that's not how I built my career. But suddenly it's something that is getting in the way. And there's so many people who have these jobs that are thinking, yeah, I'm going to just stick with this, even though it kills my soul every day. Yeah. Or it doesn't kill their soul. It's just like, yeah, it's what they do. And they're just like, I can't do the other things. I can't make time. Because I think a flip for me, and it's a very loose definition, but a flip is just doing it differently. You have more than one thing that you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And I think what's crazy is in our society that sometimes that's looked down on. Mm-hmm. And we can do these things differently, no matter mm-hmm. how simple and extreme it could be. 5 minutes a week to paint something. It could be something so simple and just making time for these things that really fulfill our soul in a way.
Yeah. There's a little video out there by Rick Rubin, or Rick Rubin is featured in it. So a music producer in LA. He's worked with the Chili Peppers and folks like that. And he was talking about like your job versus passion. And he's like, for some people, I could be getting it wrong. If you look it up online, you'll find it. But essentially, is what he was saying was, your job may not be your passion, and also maybe your passion cannot be your job, possibly. But it's important to have a passion to do something with that, and maybe your job fulfills, gives you the basic needs and helps you, pay your rent and all those things, so that it affords you the chance to explore that passion. So maybe, right? I mean, maybe some of us are meant to do two things, one thing. I don't know. Like I'm just figuring it out right now. We'll see where it all goes. But I do think however it shakes out is you owe yourself the opportunity to go step into it. And if you don't, I don't care. I really don't care how it works out. Like for me or anyone else, it sort of doesn't matter. What matters is that the intention and the action you put into it, not the outcome. I mean, at some point we want to return on our efforts, for sure. And if we're on the right path, we're going to get it, and it's going to support us in the right way. And if not, then we're going to figure something else out. But the intention and the action has to be there to go down that, and you deserve, you owe it to yourself to go do those things, or else at some point you're going to go, oh shit, I should have done something. I should have done that, or maybe I should have done the other thing, or maybe. So fuck that. So just go try it. Go do it. And when it doesn't work out, try it again. Right. And do something else. Or do that same thing better. Yeah. Like, right, you're not going to...
That being unattached.
Holy shit. Like, a lot of people, you're not going to hit the ball out of the park in the first attempt. Oh, I failed. Well, with that attitude, you will. Yeah, like, do it. Get up there and do it again.
Right. Yeah. Being unattached to that outcome and just trying. And, such a good point that you brought up, like, it's going to all lead to something else. It might not be that one thing that you're doing, that you're trying.
That's right.
But you trying that is the next step. Because maybe, like you said, you guys were going to go play pickleball that day. And then you're like, no, we'll go here. And that decision was like, it just led from one thing to another. And it's that just taking that first step. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to experience, what someone's going to say, and how that is going to change.
Yeah, I think there's two ways you can approach things, right? And like our society is very like 100, right? Like whatever the thing we're even talking about is, like $100,000. My home has to be $100,000. I'm making up the numbers based on the context, but like $1 million home, $200,000 salary, or drive that car, like a number, a arbitrary number tied to a thing because reasons. Right. So that's one way you can certainly go about it. Completely 100% outcomes based on the thing. Or, and this is my preference. When I was pre-SEO, I was living on the East Coast in Jersey, and I was taking classes at School of Visual Arts and getting into advertising a lot and studying it. Wanted to be a copywriter. And that didn't work out. That's one of the things I tried. Didn't work out. However, one of the things that I took away from it were the people, the greats in advertising, one of whom is David Ogilvy. And one of his lines that's quoted a lot is, if you reach for the stars, you're not going to come up with a handful of dirt. Right. So like have a big lofty goal, right? Like go after that thing. And it's not 100. Like it's just fundamentally not 100. It's not an arbitrary number. It's a concept. It's a dream. It's a thing you want to pursue. And, if you don't have an arbitrary number, you're going to be happy with the action that you took. You're going to be happy with the outcome, the things that it built for you, because you're going to be able to build something on that. 100 typically comes up empty, even if you hit 100. And there's an emptiness to it. It's not purposeful. The other thing, there's a lot of purpose to it.
Right. It's impossible. I don't know anyone who can really do 100, all the time. All the time. Like, I feel like there's just, even in nature, like there's variation. Like there's things that come up in the environment that make it so that's not always possible. And
totally.
That's perfectly natural.
Yeah. Grow seasons, there's better and worse grow seasons, right? Versus, back in the day of, your annual review and what are your goals for this year? Well, why don't we double it? well, why do you think we can double it? Like, where did that even come from? Because big lofty goal. Well, we put that there because, we need something to shoot for. And then you don't hit the goal. And then a year later, you're like, oh, you didn't hit that goal. Like, well, we said it was a big lofty goal. It was about reaching for the goal. It was a stretch goal. You didn't hit that goal. You're like, wow. So these numbers, are they not arbitrary in a lot of corporate, but then I get penalized for it a year later because, man, what a game this shit is. Where when you reach for the stars, working for yourself, doing your own thing, like you define success and failure, right? And it's getting back up and doing the thing again is really the definition of success.
Nick, this journey, this path that you're on, you're carving this out for yourself, you're exploring it, things are showing up, and it's really successful for you on the inside, like, as well as others that you're helping to connect with their animals in such a unique way. And I'm curious to hear, because you decided to take this, what are you most proud of?
I don't know. I never thought about that. I'll give it my best shot. For me, it's, I really had no clue if it would work, and I had no clue if I can read someone else's animal and give them information that was worth talking about. And then could I do it again? And then how many times could I do it? And when it didn't work the way that I wanted it to, like, what happened there and figuring it out. And, there was a time when I was figuring it out and I didn't know this was happening. It took two times, but when someone showed up without the intention of me chatting with their animal, and it was more curious about this whole psychic world, intuition, like, how does that work? That's not intention to connect with your animal. It's your own curiosity that's showing up, right? And so that happened a couple times, and literally twice. And it was the second time, and I was like, oh man, that wasn't a good time. Like that's not what I was imagining. And then there's another animal reading right off the heels of that, and I'm going into it going, oh shit, like this doesn't feel good. And also, like, wash that shit off. Like, you're like, show up to do the job that you said you're going to show up and do. And that was an amazing, that is one of my most memorable times with someone, talking to them. And so to show up after getting kicked in the pants or being let down or whatever the language you want to apply to it, and then getting right back in there literally like 5 minutes later. That was a defining moment for me of like, how are you going to handle this disappointment? How are you going to handle this learning? And what are you going to do with it? Right? What are you going to do? Because you have like 4 minutes to decide what you're going to do with that. You have 4 minutes to like bucker up or hit the eject button, and then you go live. Like it's in real person. Like you gotta do it or don't do it. Shit or get off the pot. Like, figure it out, dude. Like right now. And that was a really, that was a cool moment for me. In hindsight, and I mean, at the time, it's like it's not great, but in hindsight, You're like, that is how you get ahead, and that is how you get shit done. That is how you make things work.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Nick. This is such a great conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours on this. But I want people to connect with you. How can people find you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. So you can go to nickmusica.com, NickMusica. And so there's two offerings on there. One is set up a time to communicate with your animal, for me to communicate with your animal, and I'll talk with your animal first, and then I'll bring that information in and we'll debrief around it. And why you would want to do that? Well, we get a bunch of support when we're here on the planet, and the animals are teachers, and they're all here to teach us something. So it typically starts out with like what the animal wants to teach you, what you want to show you, and then it turns into like 100% typically reading on yourself, and with informed by the animal is typically how it all rolls out. The other thing for folks. And I was in this bucket for a long time. People who want to develop their own intuition, right? They get tapped on the shoulder. They don't know what to do with it. I teach folks what was helpful for me to move through it to get to where I am. If you want to learn animal communication, we can certainly do it. I'm more of a fan of let's learning how to stabilize our own energy field. Let's learn to figure out what intuition means. And then the thing that shows up for us is going to be the thing that is meant to show up for us. For me, it's animals. For other folks, it can be one of many, many things. So I think it's different for a lot of people. And so my encouragement is let's learn how to tap into the intuition and see what shows up.
Nice. Nick, thank you so much for coming on here today and for talking with us, sharing about your journey. I appreciate you.
Back at you,
so
Jenny.
much.
This is super cool.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this first episode of the Career Flipper podcast. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you liked what you heard, please like, comment, share, and follow the podcast. Your support means so much. We'll be able to keep this going for more episodes. You can also follow us, the Career Flipper Pod, on Instagram and join our LinkedIn group to connect with other listeners and share your thoughts. New episodes will launch every Thursday, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more amazing career flips. If you have a career flip to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can send me an email to hello@thecareerflipper.com. Thank you again for listening and tuning in. I can't wait to share more incredible journeys with you next week. See you later.